Hello everyone, welcome to my channel and welcome to a brand new video where we try to discuss various things that are important in our lives. Please excuse me for talking more softly than usual. I'm recording this during night time and someone else is around me sleeping, and since usually I can be pretty loud, I'm doing my best not to be loud this time. Recently I found myself needing to think about all the friendship relations in my life and the friends that I've had in the past, the friends that I have in the present, and the potential of new friends in the future, if any. And I realized it's actually necessary to have a better picture, a clearer picture about the various degrees of friendship that we could have. And not just friendship, but various degrees of relations that we might have in life in general. So I've made a list that I would like to talk about today. I would like to present it to you. Take it with a bit of grain of salt. It is after all my personal opinion and therefore a subjective opinion. However, at the same time, please be aware that I've done my best to think about as many possibilities as possible, as many to really think deep about this particular subject that we're talking about, and to make a list that wants to be as comprehensive as possible, so as to come as close as possible to an objective view of the problem. Also, as a small disclaimer, please bear in mind that the relation that we might have with someone might fall in another category that's not listed here. I was interested in focusing on the various relations that we have with people, provided that we choose those relations, okay? Also, as a small disclaimer, I keep saying relations, and I will keep saying relations. Bear in mind that English is not my maternal language. In English, I've seen you typically like to use the term relationship. It's a bit strange to me. We don't have this in my language. We have distinct words for different things, and we do not have this weird thing that English language seems to have, to be able to just slap ship at the end of some word and transform that word into something else, theoretically. We don't have that, and not only that we don't have that, but if you think about it, the term relation and the term relationship, even in English, are pretty much one and the same. So I really don't see any difference between them. So, because I'm really not used to the idea of relationship, I will keep using the term relation. Please bear in mind that in my mind, these two are perfectly identical. Okay? Now, with this out of the way, let's talk about what can our relations be with the people around us. There are a few types of relations that we might have and that are not on this particular list. One is the relation that we have with our family, right? And I'm specifically thinking about the family that we are born into, not the family that we choose to have by having a wife or a husband. That type of relation does not exist on this list because it's not really all that relevant. We do not choose in which family to be born. Therefore, that kind of relation kind of gets imposed on us. Also, sometimes we might be providers of some goods or services for other people, and in that case, we are providers and they are customers. And also in other situations, we might be customers and someone else might be a provider. That's also, or I should say, those are also three other kinds of relations that we might have with other people, that I've also not listed them here because they don't really make sense from the perspective that I'm trying to see things. To be a bit more precise, what I wanted to focus on were basically the relations that we choose to have with other people and that are either positive or negative. Or, in order to be a little bit even clearer than that, the positive types of relations are basically friendships. The negative types of relations are those that we have with people that we hate, with people that have done wrong to us, have created problems for us in the past, the people that we consider to be enemies, more or less. Okay? I will not be talking about those. I kind of find it difficult to make a sort of hierarchy of various degrees of hostility, or I don't know how to call it. I will just not focus on that, on those kinds of relations. Okay, I will focus on the positive ones, not because I ignore the negative ones, but because I think the vast majority of us, we don't really have that many enemies that we need to catalog them and we need to categorize them so well, right? I mean, I don't know about you, but I have less than 5, so I can count them with just one hand. So obviously I don't really care about categorizing the negative types of relations that we might have with people. But it is much more useful to categorize the positive types of relations, basically all the kind of friendships that we might have with people. We also have a place that it's precisely in the middle, and that I've put it on the list just for the sake of clarity and just for the sake of having it as a reference point. And we're going to start with that from the bottom up, basically. Exactly in the middle, neither positive nor negative, we have nobody. The nobody that we pass through each day when we go out in the street. The average person from the street, that means absolutely nothing to us, is nobody for us, is not a friend nor an enemy. It's just a complete stranger that we know nothing about, that has done nothing to us, and therefore we don't really have any relation to it. So nobody is this sort of 0 point, you know. Like in mathematics, you have positive numbers, negative numbers, and you have 0, which is, technically speaking, neither positive nor negative. It's a single point. We could call it a point of reference on an axis of numbers. Okay, that's how nobody is. It's good to be aware of this level, because of this level of friendship. Well, it's not friendship, but it's a kind of relation, right? It's good to be aware of it for clarity's sake. At the extreme positive end, we have ourselves, which I've read with, I wrote with white on red background. We are basically the most important person in our life. And also, it's that kind of relation that, well, nobody else can be on our level, you know. And it sounds a bit weird, and I hope that my message is not misunderstood. I'm not talking about us considering ourselves to be superior to everyone else. It's not about superiority or inferiority. It's about the fact that ultimately we know ourselves the best. We have lived with ourselves the most time. Okay? And we need to remain the most important person in our lives overall. Sure, from time to time we might choose someone else to be more important than us. We might choose, I don't know, a wife or a husband to consider that it's more important than us from certain perspectives, and that's perfectly fine. But the idea is that this particular level is reserved just for us and us alone. Everyone else can be found further away than this center point that we are for ourselves. I hope I'm clear enough. Many times I find myself struggling to explain something that's not that difficult in my language, but due to the English language, well, it becomes a bit more difficult. Anyhow, we're gonna start from nobody, and we're going to go up, and we're going to list all these types of relations, from the least important one to the most important one. So, in my opinion, immediately after nobody, we have various people that we might call acquaintances, or they might be friends of friends, or perhaps family relative of friends, or friends of family members of our own, or stuff like that, you know. An acquaintance, in my opinion, in my definition, is basically a person that we know that exists, but nothing more than that. Meaning a person that we don't really care about. We know it exists, we know it's someone in particular, but they're not friends at all. We don't care about them more than we care a random person on the street. We have no obligation towards them. We have no moral duties towards them. We don't have anything. And this is why on this level of relation, on the acquaintance level, I've also put friends of friends, because sure, we are friends with various people and they in turn have friends, but those friends mean nothing to us ultimately, unless we become friends of them as well, but then they're not friends of friends anymore. Okay, so I hope this is clear. They are on a separate level because they're not quite nobody. They're not quite just a random guy on the street, you know. They are somebody we happen to know. So they are one level above nobody. They're still far away from us. Remember, we are at the top, where I wrote me/myself. They are still far away from us, but they are a bit closer than the average Joe on the street. Okay? Moving on closer to us, we have various colleagues at work or co-workers. They are also not friends, but that's a particular relation that we have with them. Okay? Also, if you notice, I've put these with pale orange background color in order to symbolize the fact that we don't really choose these relations. Okay, so a person will simply become a colleague of ours or a coworker from the simple fact that we choose to hire ourselves in the company in which they work as well. We automatically become colleagues. Same as with acquaintances and friends of friends. We don't really choose them to be an acquaintance. They just become by the nature of things. Okay? But there's nothing wrong with that. It's just another small detail that we need to be aware of. Moving on, we start to see, we start to become aware of levels of friendship which we actually choose to have, or in some cases we choose not to have, because everything else is within our power to accept or reject. So on the third level, from nobody a little bit closer to us, we have what we might call simple friends with very few things in common. We have in my language, we have a distinct word for it. In English, you only have the word friend in order to, express someone that is a friend. In my language, we actually have two different words. And for this particular case, when we want to say that someone is a friend, but it's a distant friend, it's not a close friend, we don't have many things in common, we don't share so many things. In my language, we can simply choose to say amic, which is a word derived from the word ami from French, which means friend. But because we imported it and we made it our own, we now have two words that can express the same thing, and therefore we can choose to associate a slightly different meaning to each of them. So on this level, it's what we would call amic or amich, plural in my language. These are the simple friends that we can have. Distant friends, we don't have many things in common. Perhaps we are bothered by various traits that they have, various behaviors, but it's still not impossible for us to be, distant friends. We don't really help each other all that much, we don't really talk all that much, we don't really keep contact all that much, but we would kind of call them friends, okay? This is this particular level. Moving on. On the next level, we have the first kind of intimate relation. There are three kinds of intimate relations that I see, and I've marked them with cyan background. Because friendship does not automatically imply intimacy in the sense of having sex or having any form of close intimacy like kissing and stuff like that. Only some friendships do. Those that, we choose for this particular purpose. So in order to distinguish them better, I've marked them with a cyan background. So on this fourth level, away from nobody, closer to ourselves, we have what I would say an intimate friend, but without desires for a serious relation. It's what you might call in English a hookup friend, or just a person that you want to hook up with in order to have, what we would call an adventure, or just, to put it simply, plain sex. Once, twice, maybe a week, maybe a month, but you're not really interested in having a relation, a serious relation with them. You're just interested in having some benefits, typically sex. That's a separate kind of relation, and why not? It needs to be stated clearly. It needs to be distinguished from all the others. Okay? Above that level, I would say, are pretty much most of our friends, or what in English you would simply call a friend. What I would say is your average friend, your average person that you choose to be friend with. You have, let's say, a 50% similarity with, meaning you share 50% of, your passions, your tastes, your opinions, your hobbies, your interests, or whatever it is that you share with them. You have kind of like a 50-50 similarity between you. Don't cling on these numbers so much, because they are there only as a guidance, okay? We're not doing precise mathematics here, so when I say 50% similarity, don't take it quite that literal. It's just a way for me to distinguish between various things that I'm talking about better, right? So this kind of friendship is, in my view, somewhere in between, at exactly half the distance between nobody and yourself. This is where most of our friends are, especially for those of you who have many friends, like more than 10 friends. If you have more than 10 friends, I would say that you probably have only one or two or three or four good friends, or very good friends, and the rest of 10, 15, 20 of them, or how many you have, are just, regular friends? Well, those regular friends is what I called friend with 50% similarity. So I hope it's clear now. Better friends than those obviously need to have their own level of friendship, and it's the level immediately above this one. It's what I called good enough friends, meaning they're better friends than the previous ones. You can talk more with them, you can do more with them, you can spend your time more with them. They are much closer to you in terms of how many things you share, but they're still not quite like a brother or a sister, a very good brother or very good sister, okay? So I would say this is kind of what describes a good enough friend. It has, let's say, a 75% similarity. Again, take it with a grain of salt. Take it as a reference point, not exact mathematics. One level above those are what I would call an intimate friend, what you would call a girlfriend or a boyfriend. Basically, a friend with which you want to have intimate relations, and you are basically attempting to have a relation. Meaning, let's say that you're a man, for the sake of simplicity, although you can flip things around, and you meet a woman and you like her, and you two start a relationship, right? You start a relation with her. You want to be together, and you are at the beginning of the relation. So you don't really know whether it's going to be the one that stays by your side for the rest of your life, or for extremely long periods of time, like 10, 15, 20 years or more. So from my perspective, you are in an attempt to have a relation. Okay? Again, this is somewhat subjective. In my view, you can still be in an attempt to have a relation even after 2 years or 3 years. You know, with my previous girlfriend, we were in an attempt to be with each other for 2.5 years, and then we drew the line and we separated. And we still didn't, even after 2.5 years, we still didn't really had a true relation together, you know. So again, like, it depends a lot on what your standards are, on what your ladder of values is. Some people might call themselves boyfriend or girlfriend even after just, I don't know, a week. they might call themselves that are in a relation with the other person. By my standards, no, they're not. Now, someone above that level is very good friend, or what we might call a close friend. It's one of the best forms of friendship, essentially. A very good friend is a friend that knows you very well, a friend that you know very well, a friend with which you have many things in common, a friend with which you can talk almost anything. And also, on this level of friendship, mutual help is self-implied. It's not a matter of if you help him and if he helps you when you need it. It's a matter of how much can you help each other. It's a matter of being certain that you will help him when he needs you, and you can, or vice versa. It's certain that you will get help from him when you need, and he can help you. Okay? On this level of friendship, you don't have that many friends. Okay? If you have 10 friends in total, maybe 1 or 2 of them are very good friends. If you have more than 10, I don't know, maybe you have 4 or 5 very good friends, although from my personal life experience and my observations, people that have a lot of friends, they don't really have that many in reality. People who have a lot of friends, typically all of those friends are on the lower levels, you know. They are either very simple friends with few things in common, or you know, a simple friend, 50% similarity. Typically, from what I've seen, people who have a lot of friends are the kind of people that don't really have much standards, and they are very easy to call someone a friend of them. Whereas people like me who have very few friends, in total, we are much more pretentious. Our expectations are much higher, and we do not call someone a friend so easily, let alone a good friend or very good friend. Of course, your mileage may vary, but again, from my observations, this is how reality is. Now, someone better than a very good friend is a friend like a brother or sister. And when I say brother or sister, I don't mean like that kind of brother or sister that you just don't want to care, you don't care about, you don't want to know anything about, you don't talk to, and you don't do anything with it. No, I'm really talking about, you know, that kind of person that feels like true family. That kind of friend with which you can talk absolutely anything about anything and anyone, including yourselves. And you know that he's not going to be mad at you. You know that you can rely on him. Mutual help is self-implied and above. Like there's no question about it. It's as if you were born with him in the same family, and it's that kind of brother and sister that you want and need. Okay, it's the absolute best friendship that you can possibly have, and sadly, it's pretty much a matter of luck whether you have it or not. Some people are lucky enough to have experienced that in their life, perhaps in the past. Perhaps some of you are still lucky enough to have that kind of friendship in present in your life. It doesn't happen very easily, and it doesn't happen all that often, and it certainly doesn't happen for everyone. Like I said, it's the absolute best type of friendship that you can possibly experience. And above that, there's only one more level. A person even closer than that to you can only be your lover, wife, husband, or however you call it. And just like I needed to mention in the previous example with friend like a brother, I need to mention here as well that when I say lover, wife, husband, I'm not talking about those fucked up marriages where the two of them, are in constant fighting. They don't go along with each other. They don't like each other. They have married just because, society asked them to. No, I'm talking about the ideal wife, the ideal husband, the person that is more than your best friend. It's your best friend, but at the same time, it's, the person that you can have true intimacy with, and it's the person that you can talk anything about anything and anyone. It's the person that always has your back. It's the person that you are literally spending your life with, so you are both of you going in life on the same road together, etc., etc., etc. So, needless to say, I'm talking about the ideal lover, wife, husband, not your average lover, wife, husband that you see around. Okay? So, pretty much these are all the levels of relations, mostly friendships, that you can have, most of them that you actually choose to have, because nobody forces you to call a friend anyone, regardless of the level of friendship. And like I said in the beginning of the video, it's important that we are aware of these levels, and as an exercise, sort of like a homework for you, it's important that you think about all the people in your life and start to categorize them based on these friendship levels. So basically take this list and put in parentheses on each level the names of those people that you consider to be, just an acquaintance, just a colleague, a simple friend, a hookup person if you do those sorts of things, your regular friends, your good enough friends, your girlfriends, boyfriends. Well, I don't know if I should say plural, but anyway, you get to decide which is the case for you. Very good friends, and so on and so forth. This is a good enough exercise that I've done recently, because I needed to think about all of this and to think about what I do with it and what I do with them, with, those people that I call friends. How do I want those relations to go forward in the future? Or how will they go regardless of whether I want something or not? It's also important to make this exercise in order to know for sure who you can rely on to help you when you need help and who you can't. Because the last thing that you want to experience is someone that's, I don't know, a simple friend that you thought it's a good friend that will help you, and you have some problems, and then you see that he won't lift a finger to help you. It's much better to be aware of this since the beginning, rather than experience something like that as you go with your life. One more thing that I consider necessary to say, which is perhaps not very obvious, is that you should, although this should happen naturally without you actually thinking, but you should have the people that come into your life as friends go step by step, one level at a time. Meaning you shouldn't call someone a lover. You shouldn't consider someone to be a lover, even though you want to be with that someone in a relation, in an intimate relation. You should first of all, try to be simple friends, and then have these levels go one by one. Have that person basically have enough experience with that person to know that that person can be more than a simple friend, more than just your regular friend, and so on and so forth. So have that person basically naturally progress in this hierarchy of friendship until it reaches the level that you desire. Don't put that person directly on a pedestal on the level that you want, because that person can very easily disappoint you when you find out that that person is not capable of raising herself high enough to be where you want her to be. So from this perspective, these lists become pretty good roadmap, if you want to call it this way. A roadmap for friendships in your life, in order to, make sure that a person for you is at the level that it can be, the level that it deserves, and the level that is appropriate for that particular person. So, I hope this was useful to you. I hope now you understand how some people in your life are better relative to you. And if you like this, please hit the like button, maybe even subscribe. I will definitely be back with more videos on various topics regarding our life, because there are plenty of things that I consider useful and necessary to be spoken that nobody else spoke. There are a lot of people, especially on YouTube and on the internet in general, who are creating the so-called positive, uplifting content, but that most of the times is not all that helpful. I'm aiming to fill those gaps that those people leave and answer all sorts of questions and come with potential solutions to all sorts of problems that we humans have in our shitty lifetime. So once again, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.